with a bit of an introduction, a bit of an update on what's been happening since, and very excited to say we've been very busy. After this, we're going to have a look at our Kiama Apiary as our apiary in focus. Also have a component that will help you understand the foundation lesson around feeding. So we're going to be looking at what bees require in the hive. So that's our learning unit today. We've also got some questions that have been sent in, so super excited about that. We're also going to look at the leaderboard and the competition part of Project Tumble and that, and of course we will finish with another prize giveaway, which is exciting. Can't wait to launch it. Project Tumble recap, or I guess an update as to where we're at. We are definitely deep into term 2, and I know that you have been busy with athletics, carnivals, cross countries, PWSA sports, and of course lots and lots of learning back at school. I am excited to see the progress that you are making in your foundation lessons, and I have been really captivated with the efforts you guys have made in the foundation lessons around the hive build and the hive painting. I just want to take this opportunity to really, I guess, sound out how inspirational you have been. I know that when we set off on this journey, we were excited about the possibility of you guys really getting hands-on and assembling the hives, and also, you know, bringing some of that creativity to the roof and the painting, and you have humbled us at our team at Project Tumble. So this term so far has been basically that, picking up beehives and taking them out to our apiaries and transferring colonies, as you'll see at the end of this hive stream, with an update around where your bees are at. About 80% of the way there. We've still got some hives to pick up, and no schools know where we are in terms of when we're booked in to do that. But by the next hive stream, we will be 100% in apiary in action. We've got those foundation lessons out there, and I can see through those work samples that you are completing them. There is no rush, just go at your own pace, make sure you take your time. The activities this term are around supporting your hive in terms of providing some, or not providing, some feed. So work your way through that, looking at pollination and how that occurs, looking at your school environment, seeing if we can improve that with some pollinator bombs. And then of course, at the very last one, which isn't up there yet, so you've still got to tick off those other foundation lessons, is the nurture one. We're recording some content with one of our design team, so that will be your expert who will guide you through that lesson, which is, I know, one that I get asked a lot about. So can't wait to see how creative you guys get with that merch activity, and whether or not we can feature some of that stuff in future hive streams, but also on the website. So yeah, look, so far, well done, keep it up. And now we're going to throw down to our Kiama Apiary, have a bit of a chat about, you know, where it is in the world and the school hives that are down there and how lucky they are. But we're also going to have a chat with one of our team members from Project Tumble, Rachael from Be Inspired. I know that you're going to love her. So we'll throw to Kiama. Apiary in focus time. So this week we're going to be checking out our Gerringong Apiary, which is a beautiful part of the world. It's in New South Wales, and it's where our busy bees will be living and working. But why here, you may ask? Well, let's find out. Firstly, let's hit exactly where we're going. So we are at Curry Mountain Estate in Gerringong. We're calling it our Kiama Apiary because the local government area is Kiama, and it's not far down the road from Kiama. All right, we're zoomed right in here. This is our apiary. Well, our apiary is actually located just up on this hill line here where my mouse cursor is. But what I want to do is kind of talk to you a little bit about what our bees will be flying to. The property itself is actually stunning. It has beautiful mountain views, and then if you turn around, you can see the coastline. Up the top of the property is actually like a little rainforest area, and I know the national parks use it as a seed harvesting area because there's so many native eucalypts and gums and things up here that they would like to access for seedlings. So the bees just love the forage here, which is a fancy way for saying that they've got lots of different flowers to visit. You see, the bees need the flowers to visit for their nectar and pollen, which I know that you know already, and it gets turned into honey. In Gerringong, or in Curry Mountain Estate, or our Kiama Apiary, they've got a variety of flowers throughout the year. We are lucky to say that there's lots of bottlebrush and banksia, as well as eucalyptus, all within flight range. Our bees have a feast waiting for them every day, which is awesome. They're not too far away from town, and in town it presents a different floral profile. We get lots of different garden flowers like roses and lavenders and even daisies, which will, I guess, top up those dearths throughout the year, which is awesome. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the weather at Gerringong. As you might imagine, being a coastal town, and if you saw where we were in terms of the coastline, we are down the south. I'm not quite sure how I can spin this around, but we are down south. Looks like it's north, but let's see if I can flick something. Here we go. We are down south of Sydney, which makes it a little bit cooler. It is an oceanic climate, which means that it has warm summers, not hot summers, and mild winters. The average high temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius in summer and 17 degrees in winter. We'll get rainfall spread down here throughout the year pretty evenly, with the wettest months being in autumn and probably drier in spring. It means our bees can forage almost every day. So 17 degrees, even on average, it's a pretty forage-worthy day. The one thing that is a little interesting down here is that it does receive quite a lot of wind. So the wind might be a big factor this year in terms of how much honey the bees are able to make, because the wind will keep them inside if it's too strong. This area is known for its beautiful coastline, its beautiful cliffs, and it's surrounded by rolling hills and countryside that stay green all year round, and you'll see that from the footage. Our bees will help pollinate the crops, which will make them even more important in the local economy. And one of the popular sports down this way is surfing. So although our bees aren't going to be able to attend the surfing contests, I'm guessing some of our teachers that might like to visit this apiary with me when we're attending for our hive streams might get to go and have a bit of a visit down there as well. The ecosystem down here is different from other places, and the ecosystem that we're talking about is how it's interconnected with the web of life around. And the bees do play an important role. They help pollinate the flowers, which helps the plants to grow and provide food and shelter for other animals. And I've had the privilege of being down on our apiary site at Curry Mountain Estate and had some of those the fauna come up and visit. So during a recent inspection, there was actually an echidna just kind of meowsing right by me, and it kind of gave me a bit of a fright. Plenty of kangaroos and wildlife as well, and amazing butterflies, which is just to die for. It's incredible space of the world. So when we do eventually get the honey from down there, I can't wait to savour the flavour because it's quite unique, and I hope you've enjoyed our apiary profile.
Okay, Project Humble crew, welcome back. I'm here with a collaborating beekeeper down here at Kiama. Her name is Rachael. I want to introduce you to her. Say hello to Rachael, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
She's from Bee Inspired. I asked her to come on camera today so that you had a bit of an understanding of who might be overlooking our hives down here when we're away. So over to you, Rachael. If you wanted just to give the kids a bit of an idea of who you are and how you got into beekeeping, it's always a bit of fun.
So kids, Rachael here. How did I get into beekeeping? I'd heard about the flowhive, and I was inspired because I was studying nutrition at school, and I realised that there's not much point telling everyone to eat more fruit and vegetables if we don't have any, because we don't have enough pollinators. So I quickly decided to switch and get a hive and see how it went, and I fell in love with it, became totally addicted to bees and beekeeping, and now I've got about 15 to 20 hives around the area of Kiama. So I've been beekeeping now for about 7 years, and my passion is, like Ben's, education. So I educate and mentor school kids around this area, but also I mentor adults who want to get into beekeeping, and so I go and help them set up their hives with their bees, and then help them through the process until they're ready to go solo on their own. So it's a lot of fun. We live in a beautiful part of the state of New South Wales down here. Lots of rain, but lots of greenery, lots of things flowering. So I think the bees here are going to be really happy, and I'm really excited for you guys to see how this project develops over time down here in Gerringong.
Awesome. Okay, one more question if it's all right.
Yes.
Favourite bee memory? Actually, we might do two. Favourite bee memory?
Favourite bee memory? My favourite bee memory was the first time I ever saw a queen laying eggs on the frame.
Oh, that's a special
And
one.
I was so excited, and I was by myself, and I was squealing loudly, but nobody could hear me because I was so excited. So that's my favourite bee memory. Second favourite would be my first time that I saw a bee hatching, a baby bee hatching.
Well, they're two things we're going to have to get on camera for sure.
Yes.
Right. One last question, and I promise we'll hand it back to your class teachers. But while I go Rachel down here, I just wanted to thank her for being part of the program. She's really doing a great job down here and inspiring the locals down here. And you guys are in such great hands, having Rachel being a bit of an overseeing force of our bees, keeping them in line. But while I had her, I just thought one more, and this is what always happens. I don't know if you find it when you get into schools, but the question I often get asked is, you know, does it hurt when you get stung? And was it something that stopped you from beekeeping, or was it something you overcame?
Yeah, it absolutely hurts.
Maybe where was the funniest part you got stung? I did Beyonce lips once, and I think that was very memorable. Have you had an experience with a Beyonce lip yourself?
Yes, I've had an eye,
Ooh.
natural Botox, just above the eye, whole eye, face blew up. I looked like Jess Fennick for about 2 days. So yes, it's not much fun, but it definitely doesn't turn me off beekeeping. So I would say to anyone that gets stung, it will happen, but it's all part of the journey. And at the end of the day, our job is to try not to get stung so that we're saving the bees, because we know when the bees sting us, they die, but we're going to be fine.
It really is a last resort, isn't it? They don't want to do that.
They
I'm talking to you back there, Weary. I know that some of your kids have been putting their heads right up close to some beehives that are in trees. So remember that story. You don't want to end up with an eye like Jeff Fennick, all right? You might have to ask your teacher who that is.
And the only times I've been stung on the face is when I wasn't wearing the suit, or I didn't have it done up properly. So I never get stung if I'm wearing a full suit.
That's it.
Guys, I've got to say just quickly, I'm so impressed with your hive painting. It's just the most colourful apiary I've ever seen. So it's going to be a joy to come and work down here with your hives, because they look spectacular.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Is the difference between nectar and honey and pollen, all the things that our bees need to be healthy. Your task this term is to decide whether or not you want to give them a bit of a level up when it comes to their forage, which is a fancy word for what they eat and what they need to survive. But what I thought I'd do is bring out a frame to show you what we're talking about. So up the top of this frame here, all of these wax cells, what we call honey cells, they've got a lid on top of them. Underneath that wax is honey that the bees will use as their carbohydrates should they need to over the winter. Now, what might be hard to see, if I hold it up to light, you might be able to see where I'm pointing. These are pollen cells. So pollen is another thing that bees consume. It provides them with their proteins and some of their fats and acids, or lipids is the technical term. What we like to see is that there's a couple of different types of pollen. So we can see some more orange pollen, some more yellow pollen. Sometimes you'll even see red and blue pollen. It's a really healthy sign of a colony to have different types of pollen. Now what you've got to do is have that conversation and complete that lesson back in school to see if you want to give your hive a bit of a level up in terms of those resources. So instead of making them go and collect it, we can provide them with some sugar syrup, which will be a substitute for the honey. And you might even choose to make up some pollen patties, which will be a substitute for pollen. There are some considerations though, so listen to your teacher when it comes time to it, because if you are going to be supplemental feeding these bees, there are some trade-offs in terms of the leaderboard. But for now, we'll put this one back into, I think this one's from Pellamaine's hive. So thanks Pellamaine, thank you for letting us borrow it. And back to the classroom for your activity. Okay, so I'm here at Valentine Public School. I'm here with Lauren and Shyla, who have just finished and presented their beehive. As you can see, it's an amazing design. Girls, can you just tell us a little bit about the process that you did to make this incredible beehive roof?
So we kind of thought of honey, because honey comes from bees, so we decided to put a bit of honey on there.
And we thought it was kind of cool because it was like dripping down from the roof. And then obviously we've done some flowers and bees because that's what they're like.
A lot of part of the bees' life.
I've got one more question, if it's okay, girls. When you made this design, were other kids involved in trying to make a design? How did you get yours selected? How did that work?
Our stage kind of had a little competition where you draw a design and the teachers would vote on which one was going to get painted, and luckily ours won, which we were very happy about.
Well, I can see why. It looks amazing. Thanks, girls. Thanks for that.
My question is, how old is the oldest queen bee you have?
Hey Ashley from Broke Public School, what a great question. Bees can live for about, on average 2 to 3 years. We have had some of our queen bees live a little longer than that, so 3 to 4 years. And I have heard of other beekeepers that have queen bees that are pushing the 5-year mark. But that is a relatively long time in comparison to a worker bee, which might only live for 30 to 40 days during spring and summer. So I guess if you had to be a bee in a colony, being a queen at least means you get to see more time. So thanks again for the question. Great one.
Hey Ben, I have a question. How many types of bees are there in Australia?
This is a cool poster that kind of explains the native bees. We have in some of our schools, and I have around the place, the sugar bag bees, which are this bee here. But if you look at that size, which is smaller than my fingernail, that is the type of size that you're talking about in terms of this native bee species. So it's quite small. And if we were to compare them to the European honeybee, you can see the size difference here. It's about the size of my fingernail. Some cool other ones are the teddy bear bees. These are humongous. And the blue banded bees, which are literally a blue bee. So I hope I've answered your question. There's hundreds and hundreds of native bee species. Thanks for the question.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm at Broke Public School. My question is, does bee poo?
Sneak in one more question because it's really good. Thank you, Zoe. Great question. A little bit funny, but a good question that I actually get asked a little bit more than you would probably expect visiting schools. Do bees poo? Short answer, yes. Do they poo inside the hive? No. Do they poo outside the hive? Yes. So there's a technical term we use to describe bee poo, and that's, the process of doing a poo, which is defecating. So bees have to do a flying flight to defecate. They're a very clean species, and they don't want to do any contamination inside that hive. Can leave stains, not huge stains, but it's a good tip that if you have a colony of bees, not to put out your whitewashing after a period of rain or cold, because the bees haven't been able to get out. And obviously when they are able to get out and you've pegged up your washing to go and get it dry, you might end up with some defecation flights over the top of your washing, and it does stain. Wasn't thinking. Thanks for the question. So this section we're going to be talking about the competitive component, which is the leaderboard, and in a moment I'm going to bring up on the screen the live leaderboard and kind of have a conversation with you about what's there. But firstly, what is it? Project Humble in part is a competitive game, I guess you could say. So we have 21 schools participating, 21 colonies of bees. You've made your selections, which you're hoping will result in a more productive colony. And the way in which we're going to be keeping track of that throughout the year is through this leaderboard. So as you will see on the screen, we have a number of columns, all of which have zeros in there at the moment. So what does that mean? We haven't registered the last round of inspections because we wanted everyone to see that they were on the leaderboard and understand what it was before we started moving things around. So each time we do a hive inspection, we'll be taking notes of the components that are there in the columns. So from frames of brood, so baby bees, how many bees, at a rough kind of estimate in terms of how many frames of bees there are in a colony. how much stores there are in terms of pollination, so pollination power, so how many frames have been dedicated to pollen, because there are some colonies and some choices that you've made that should influence more pollen coming in because of the type of queen that you've chosen. We also have is related not to how much honey is stored through the brood box, aka with use of the bees, but how much we are removing from the hive. So when we remove a kilo of honey, we will attribute a point for each kilo that is extracted and returned to your school. And then there's an additional column there that says frames of brood removed. So that is talking about if we are in a situation where we have too many bees and we want to reduce the likelihood of them swarming, because as a beekeeper, we want to provide them with enough space for them to be happy and plentiful without, them wanting to split and divide, although there may be still chances of that happening despite our best efforts. We may take off frames of brood in very, very strong colonies, and we wanted there to be a way in which that colony can be rewarded on the leaderboard. So for every frame of brood removed, should that be yours, you will be getting a point for that as well. So they will change obviously throughout the year, up and down depending on each inspection. The other thing that you need to make a mental note of is there will be opportunities for you to intervene in your colony throughout the year. So like, for example, with the foundation lesson about sugar syrup, if you elect to provide that sugar syrup and we use it with your colony, for every litre of sugar syrup, we will be subtracting away a point for each litre. So we get a true indication of which colony or which colonies have been the most productive over the course of the year. So at the moment, we're all on 0. We are all there. You can see each queen and where they are situated, as well as which subspecies of queen they have. So keep track of it. I hope that makes sense. Prize giveaway time. Really excited. Who was our lucky recipient from last Hive stream, who has a little something to say when we handed him his prize pack. Over to you, Ethan.
Thank you for the prize pack. It's the best work I've done all year.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Patterson Public School. That brings us to this Hive Streams prize giveaway, and I'm very, very excited to say that we actually have 2 prize packs up for grab. Please don't be discouraged if you're one of the students who sent in a work sample and you're not the one getting featured. There can only really be one, and on this case, we've chosen 2. So keep sending them in. You may win a future prize pack. And also, if your question was sent in and it wasn't featured, don't be disheartened. I will endeavour to put them in the next Hive stream. Otherwise, we would have a Hive stream that would go for way too long and your teachers would get way upset that we are talking about Project Tumble for too much time. So the 2 people from Broke Public School, the first prize pack for this Hive stream will go to Ashley for your question on the queen bees, and from Hamilton North, around how many bees there were in Australia. That is Harper, I believe, so congratulations to you 2. Now that brings us essentially to the end of the Hive stream, but we do have an update about your queen bee and your colony in their apiary and your hive. So what I want you to do now is at the end of this, to look in the description below, find the hyperlink related to your school or your queen, click on it, and that'll take you to the video. Just a short update on how they're going and maybe a bit of a queen spotting game if you're lucky. I hope you enjoyed today's Hive stream. I certainly enjoyed making it. I'm super excited about what's happening in the next few weeks and what Hive stream awaits us at the end of the term. So in the meantime, as always, if you've got any questions, send them through. I can't wait to see where you take these foundation lessons. I can't wait to visit your schools again and have another chat about your colony and how they're going. But for now, bye.